Hello, everybody. I think you're all online right now. This is my first webinar I'm doing, so I have no experience, and it's a little bit exciting. I'm Ursula Fürstenwald. I live in Denmark. I have the Danish citizenship, but I'm Germany originally. And I would like to thank the Association of Caucasus body psychotherapists to invite me for this kind of webinar. And as I understood, I will talk a little bit about the situation we are in now with the coronavirus, and also about what can we do and what does it open to, but from the body psychotherapeutic perspective, which is also in somatic experiencing. So I would like first to tell you a little bit about me, and then I give you an overview about what we are going to talk about. It's Irina who invited me, and she was on an introduction courses of somatic experiencing in Moscow, where I was presenting this method, and therefore I got this invitation. So thank you, Irina, for that. So I worked for many years at a center for traumatized refugees, where we worked interdisciplinary, and I worked with individual refugees, traumatized refugees, and with families and children. Before that, I have worked on a family center in Denmark, a school psychological family center, where we worked mostly with kids and families. And then from 2003, I worked in private practice. I met somatic experiencing at this time, where I also met Peter Levine, the founder of somatic experiencing. And this is it's developed as a bodily approach to resolve trauma. But you cannot only use it for trauma, because it's actually regulating the nervous system, especially the autonomic nervous system. So it's a very helpful and a very soft method to work bodily, also with all kinds of attachment and developmental trauma, as well as relational traumas. And then for sure, we have lots of trauma categories. And what is important here is that trauma is not in the event which happens to us, but it's actually the way we are reacting on something which is so big and so threatening to us. So that means that trauma is stored in the body, in the nervous system, especially spoken in the autonomic nervous system. And when we meet a threat and we mobilize so much energy to fight or flight against it, or it maybe gets frozen in our body, and we cannot resolve afterwards this energy, then it manifests in symptoms. And then if the symptoms cannot handle the activation, it goes into, it's clustering into syndromes. And if the syndromes cannot handle it, then autoimmune diseases start to appear. That's in our theory. So what I would like to talk about today is to give you a little bit of an overview about the situation, a little theory about what happens in order to our possibilities for regulation, and what happens in this situation with the underlying activation, because we see something on the surface, but it opens up for some underlying traumas, for example. And so I will just talk about that. And then we talk about the strategies we can use, and we are using, and we should use to work, to be in this situation and to work with it, cognitively, social, and individual strategies, for also talking a little bit about how important the space is where we are all together, what it means to be together in a group and building coherency, being a participant of what is going on. Then I will talk about emotional and physiological regulation, and I will show you some exercises which can regulate your body. They are very helpful to use. We used them a lot in a different way when I was working with tsunami victims in India, with a team led by Rajaselvam. And later we worked for some years in Sri Lanka, in North Sri Lanka, to help the Tamils at coping with the situation. They were so persecuted and had many difficulties to survive, and there were victims on both sides, and these tools we worked with, these bodily tools, were so helpful. So I brought these tools together in my way and made, so there comes a little bit of a structure in it. So I made it as some exercises which I give most or many of my clients, especially those ones who suffer of fear. And at the end, I would like to do a meditation with you, so we can see how our nervous system is settling. Okay, and I will tell you about a breathing exercise. The address you can find on Google it and can find it on YouTube. So this is also, breathing is also very important at this time, and this is a very interesting method to breathe. Okay, so let's look at the theory a little bit. We have, or not at the, getting an overview, we have this virus, which is right now something which we cannot see, we cannot feel it, it's invisible. It's like something which is threatening us, but where is it? In Denmark, our queen was talking about it. She was actually having several talks. She was talking about it is an uninvited and unwelcome guest. So actually we have to do with a major, so the situation is very massive, it's global, it's collective, and it's all over the world. So this makes it so overwhelming for us to cope with it. It's a major threat, and we have to orient in it, to orient in a new way. We are concerning about our loved ones. We are concerning about older people, because they are especially in danger to get infected, and we can. This is a threat we cannot escape from. We cannot go anywhere in the world to be free of it. And we have it like we open the radio, we open the television, we open the newspaper. It's all about Corona, COVID-19. And no matter, everybody talks about it, and nobody brings in some resources. So it's giving nourishment to fear in a very high degree. Nobody talks about how people came over the sickness, how it, where are the resources, what are the very good places. And I think it's in Georgia about the same, like we have it here in the West. And when we go so to this threat, which is all over and which is in the field, it's in the energy, with no escape. And usually our usual methods are, when the threat is big enough, we have three possibilities instinctively, because we often don't have the time to think. And this is our fight, flight, and freeze. Fight and flight is not possible. No way to go. And freeze is happening often. But also what we need here is to orient in a new way to cope with the situation. So that is what we have to deal with. And to deal with means also that we have to be with this impossible situation, to cope with it, and to regulate within ourselves, with our body, and together. So when we look about what's going on in the little newborn child, when the child is born, it cannot regulate itself. When the baby feels discomfort, something, it gets hungry, or it's wet, or something is going on, it starts crying, and the mother or the caregiver is coming and trying first to see what it is, but it's also, the caregiver is also comforting the child, the baby, through eye contact, through the tone of voice, takes the baby up and have it in a rhythm and hold a certain rhythm. And it's the physical contact which gives regulation. And this is another kind of regulation, which is not fight and flight, but it's through social contact. Regulation through social contact. So this regulates the nervous system, and this system is called the social engagement system, developed by the research of Stephen Porges. He found out, he calls it the polyvagal theory, and he found out that the vagus nerve we have, which is the parasympathetic nervous system, it has two branches. It has one branch. The parasympathetic nervous system is the calming system in us. It has two branches. It has the branch which goes downwards. This is the dorsal vagal system, which wires all our organs, so the organs can function without we think about it. We don't think about how do I digest my meal, how much my heartbeat should be there or not. It's all autonomic. So this is the dorsal vagal system, which works in a not activated but in a relaxed state, in the way that we can rest and digest. Our organs do what they're designed to do. But in the moment when there is threat, this is also the system which shuts us down and brings us into freeze or collapse. And then we have this other branch of the vagus nerve. This is the ventral vagus nerve, which is in the face, the eyes, the eyes, the ears, all the face, and the rest of the face. It's in the neck and the throat. It's in our swallowing part, and it's in the heart and the lungs. And it combines together with some cranial nerves and some muscle groups in these parts of the body. And that creates the social engagement system, which is so fine attuned and so important that we can get regulated on a different way than fight and flight. And this is what the primates have together, that they can regulate in different ways. This system, the social engagement system, is not in place when the baby is born. It develops, everything is wired for the system, but it develops within the first 3 years about. Therefore, the baby is so important, so dependent on the regulation of the caregiver. And when the baby get enough regulated, it can self-regulate and it can co-regulate. We co-regulate each other all the time, and very often by touch, by looking in the eyes, the tone of voice, all these things. But in these times of Corona, we don't have so many possibilities for that, and that makes it more difficult. This is a very simple explanation of the system, but you can find more about also on YouTube about Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory. And when we get regulated, when the baby gets everything it needs, it will feel safe. And when we feel safe, we can develop new networks in the brain and in the nervous system. So it's so important, this regulation. But not everybody has been exposed to this kind of regulation. Today, we know so much about child development, about attachment theories, about how relations are functioning, and how we take best care of the child. This knowledge was not there for many years ago. And the regulation through the caregiver is compromised when there's trauma. And traumatized people cannot be as so present that they can sense the needs of the newborn. So many of us, not only our clients, not only the people we know, also ourselves, have not got this regulation. So we have to learn regulation. And we have to do much more work for that. But it's possible. And it's never too late to get a good childhood, as we say. But what happens when we haven't been regulated like that, or when there are other things which are unresolved in our life, in the nervous system. This, in a situation like the corona, it triggers so much of the underlying trauma stored in the body. The unresolved trauma stored in the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system. Because it is in the field. So, what kinds of trauma get mostly triggered? One thing is surely the unresolved traumas, but many traumas also who are nonverbal or pre-verbal. So that means the body, the nervous system, can recognize, the brain can recognize a situation. But the neocortex has not been there, so it cannot remember what was going on. So therefore, we see so much of activation right now with people, with our clients, and with ourselves. Nobody is completely free of that because it's all the material which is not connected to the thinking brain. So there is the existential threat, like death threat, all kinds of life and death traumas get triggered. There can be also accidents where people were almost dying, but also many medical traumas or major illnesses, or surgeries immediately after birth, major illnesses like pneumonia, high fevers, typhoid, typhus, poisoning. All of these things can be triggered. Severe violence. When somebody has been beaten a lot, they often feel like they were dying or they could die. And then we have all this pre and perinatal trauma, all kinds of birth trauma in the womb, during the birth, and after birth. That means when the fetus or the infant is so small, everything what happens, physically, emotionally, on anything, everything is a question of life and death. So there's so much activation, which is so much activation, which is in the system, and we call this global high intensity activation in the somatic experiencing way, or SE way, as we call it in the short form. So this global high intensity activation means that any stimulus can give us in the whole nervous system a high activation and easily leads to overwhelm if we don't do a lot for regulation. Also, we have also attachment difficulties like disorganized attachment or ambivalent attachment that can get triggered, and collective traumas like war, for example, or genocide. Right now, in this time, yesterday, there was the day of liberation from the Germans for 75 years ago after the Second World War. Denmark got free of the Germans, and all the radio, all the television is just full of this the last 2 weeks. So we see all the war films, and this together with the corona, which is a kind of a war situation too, because we cannot go out. We got regulations from the government. We cannot meet together. We have to live in certain ways and take all the protections we can get. So this is very threatening. And me as a German who has had the family of my father being in Poland next to a concentration camp where their best Jewish friends were in the camp. This is all sitting in my system. This is all sitting in my nervous system, in my collective memory. I cannot see these films. I have to go away. I have to stop. At the moment, at least. I can work with traumatized refugees. This is not my story. But the Second World War, there's something which is called the transgenerational trauma. That means a lot of this trauma goes from generation to generation. And I think many of you in Georgia who have also a history can feel some of that and can react probably in some of the same way. So I hope that's okay, what I tell you, and it might open up some fields for you where you can recognize some things. And I would like you already now, before the exercises, just to feel the way you sit on your chair, feel your seat bones, and connect to your legs. So you feel your legs down to the feet and the foot soles, and feel how you touch the ground. Maybe you have no shoes on. So you can really feel how you touch the ground. And also the ground is touching you, the floor, whatever is the ground you are on. And when you get this connection to your legs, just see what happens in your upper body and with your breath. It's possible that you get a bit more calm and feel a bit more connected from the inside. And I would like to continue. So, what reactions do we see in this crisis? For sure, most people, they cope nicely with the situation. They use the time of not going to work and being locked out to deepen things, go much deeper, have more time, go more slow, working in the garden, make the garden nice, or clean out the house, make order into things, which is very important and very good for your well-being, for your soul. And it's a nice way to use this situation and see what new possibilities you can find when there's the space and the time. In our stressed world, I think in Georgia the same, we are missing space and time. We are doing. So this is for really many people, the situation. But for some people, we know them. It's our clients and it's also ourselves. The situation is different, can be different. There can be a lot of fear, even desperation, anger, sometimes hate, or people shut down and get very passive. And if you see the whole thing, I mean, we got the lockdown the 12th of March. It was a difficult way to cope with the situation. Children had to be at home, being home, working from home. Schools were closed, so they had to take care of the children and teach the children the material the teachers were online giving them. They had to work, and this was a very stressful situation. Not everybody could do that, and it took time to get used. How can I cope here? What has to be adjusted? What has not to be adjusted? So that was this new orienting phases. But now it takes so long time, and people get impatient. They want to meet again. They want to touch each other. They want to have contact. They want to go to work. They want to do something meaningful. Again, they want their everyday life back. Even though they probably thought holiday, not being on work, is a very good thing. But when it's not these holidays which you choose, but you are forced to this time of space, it's a different thing. So, what is it what we need to do generally in this situation? The first thing is we look at the different strategies. The cognitive strategies are that we get informed, that we really get informed from the health authorities and the government about the situation, about the spreading of the virus, about the sickness when you get the virus, how it develops, what it influences, what are the symptoms, and also get informed through the World Health Organization, the WHO, and see what tests are under development and so on. So information is important. And this is also a huge space for conspiracy theories. This conspiracy theories is a way of trying to be with the impossible to be with, to hold what is almost impossible to hold. Because in the conspiracy theories, you find somebody, something who you can blame on, who you can put some of your frustration on. But be careful. And don't forget to look at the authorities. And you have to know also, if I don't know how the situation is in Georgia, if you can go out, you have to take care with all the protection which the government tells you to take care of. We have to wash our hands many times. We have to use sanitizer. We have to maybe to use masks or mouth protection. We have to hold distance of 2 meters. But some countries, like in Denmark, we can go out in nature. We are not locked into our houses. We have to be careful, but we can go out in nature. We can walk with each other with 2 meters of distance, for example. And this is very helpful because nature is a strong force to connect to and to get regulated, because nature is always there, and nature changes very much, but it has also the quality of something being very constantly and being there, giving life. And now nature is flourishing since all the many factories, many things who produce pollution have stopped. So nature can take over again and develop. Wonderful. And this also gives nourishment to our inner nurturing. So, and I guess you in Georgia also have a lot of digital communication, working meetings, meetings with friends, peer groups, all on video conferences, which is a challenge, but also it's also a possibility to develop skills in this way, which you haven't done before. It's our capacity has a possibility to increase, to see what more can we do with these virtual media. Zoom meetings are very popular this time. For sure, it cannot replace the human contact, but it helps. It's the second best possibility. We have the electromagnetic field, so we still can resonate with each other. We can feel the other person to a certain degree. Even right now, when you're looking at this presentation, I cannot see anybody of you, but I can sense that there are people out there, and that we want something together. So we can see the facial expression, so we can read to a certain degree what's going on in the other person. We don't have eye contact. When I should have eye contact, I look in the camera up there. But we can get some ideas. We cannot touch. We can only imagine touch. But still, it's the second best thing. And it's so important. I want to talk a little bit more about the we space we are creating. We are creating right now in this webinar where we are together. And we are creating this because we have an intention. You want to be together. You want to know more. You want to have different people to give you some more knowledge about things. And for me, also, I want to be with you. I would like to learn from you, which I cannot because this is only one-way communication. But I like so much to give to you, and I feel that I also receive. There's also a feedback because this is a mutual process, and this is the place or the space we are creating together. We create something which is in this we space, which is coherent. And this is very important, especially in times which are so uncertain. The we dimension is a very powerful resource. And we sense this part in our nervous system. How wonderful of having the possibility of being together and sharing an intention. Right now, we share an intention. Everybody in the seminar right now, or in the not seminar, in the webinar now is sharing an intention. So our nervous system knows how to do this. Our nervous system is so fine attuned. It knows these spaces. It knows how to tune in. And because when we have times of difficulties and we go through crisis, there is a response. There is a tribal crisis response and a trauma response. Both are there. And from then, when survival is threatened, then we know it. We know it almost instinctively or intuitively that being together is a good thing. And this is evolutionary. It is developed and has helped us always through difficult times. It's actually a part of our survival. It's an intelligence. Like Stephen Porges, which I told you about the social engagement system. I was on a conference in 2017 in London about attachment and trauma, and he was one of the presenters. He said in his presentation, he opened it up and said, for about 6 million years, the first people were there, and they maybe were so small, and there were dinosaurs, big dinosaurs, these animals all over, and they love to eat people, maybe as a dessert, who knows. But these dinosaurs, these life conditions should make it that the dinosaurs, they survive. But they're not there anymore. Who survived? Human beings, people. So we have this capacity of survival through these we spaces. It's a coherent and a stabilizing factor. And don't undermine that. It's an intelligence in crisis time. And it's a coherence building tool. And what is building coherence? Or is a coherence building tool? It's awareness, it's presence, and it's participation. So important, participation. Instead of being a consumer, being a participant. A participant is an active, creative way of being in something. A consumer just listen to something or getting something passively, seeing, scanning. Is there something for me in that or not? Otherwise, I can throw it away. But a participant is an active player. A participant is giving into the we space and is taking from the we space. So it's both ways, and it's challenging the creativity and also the receiving and giving into the collective. And that makes us strong. And this happens every moment. We take, we give. We feel, I feel you, you feel me, feeling you. This is a mutual process all the time going like that. It's a flow. And this flow, we need to be in this space and feel each other. But this flow can be interrupted. And what is interrupting the flow? It is strong habits that things have to be in a certain way. There's no way otherwise. And trauma. Trauma is interrupting this flow because we come to these stuck places in both situations. And we have to learn with the habits, we have to learn to let go more and more. And the trauma we have to work through. Regulation helps us until we can work something through. So from this part, we can come to emotional regulation. Emotional regulation happens also when we help each other, to give each other sometimes session, help each other with regulation, to stay in contact and be in contact and take walks together, but also for yourselves, for without the real spaces. Take care of sleep enough, do a lot of body movements. Walking is a good thing, also walking together. This walks together, especially in nature, but also in parks or somewhere where it's a little bit green. It's so healing. It's so helpful. Listen to music, singing, dancing. All this motion is very important. And when we have emotional regulation, we also get physical or physiological regulation, because everything we experience, or all our emotion or thoughts, our whatever we experience, our behavior, all manifests in the physiology. So they work together, and by that we can influence with changing our physiology. We can influence our emotions with taking care and working through our emotions and give them a bodily space. We can change the physiology with better outcome, and this gives a better cognitive outcome. Yeah, I would have some examples, but yeah, let me come very shortly with an example of a client who was having this experience of getting totally activated by the virus. It was Denmark had the lockdown 2 days after I was teaching the somatic experiencing method to a group of people, professionals. It was a psychologist, and she got so activated that she wanted an acute session with me. She was really so afraid of hearing about the regulations, especially that the government said that there can come times where people have to be tested. When they find a vaccination, it can happen that people can be forced to vaccinations. And she was so bad that I said, what does that remind you? This high activation, the time when she was pregnant with her first child. She was not feeling well. It was a surprise pregnancy. It was not planned or anything. And she was forced to take, her family was pressuring her to get vaccination because she was not very well. And I asked her, what was your biggest, or what was disturbing you mostly in this time? What was the thing which you got, was difficult? He said, my mother. I was so afraid first to tell my mother that I'm pregnant. And then she was also all the time forcing me to get this vaccinations. And then suddenly something opened in her. And she said, yes, my great-grandmother, when she gave birth to my grandmother, she died in the birth, right after the birth. And this situation of having lost someone by giving birth. Went from the grandmother to the mother, and it went to my client as a way transgenerational trauma can work until it gets open, it gets acknowledged, it gets worked through. And it was an amazing session. At the end of the session said, I feel so calm. And now I'm not afraid of the authorities, the health authorities. I can say yes and no. They're not threatening me any longer. So this is sometimes a way how this underlying activation can work. Okay, and I would like to show you now some exercises to regulate the body, which I show to my clients, as I told you, and I do it always with my clients, inspired by Raja Selvam, but I put them together in my way. And this is, if you imagine, when there is any kind of threat, the first part, which is closing when you cannot do anything, is we close our arms and our legs. Like small children, babies, when they're born, they cannot use their arms and legs for defending. So we have the next layer, the next inner layer, it's in our torso, it's all our organs, and we try to defend with this inner space with the organs. If they can't do it, the activation goes deeper. It goes to the spine and the brain. And this is when we sometimes have this buzzing inside, like electricity. This is in the central nervous system. And this activation, when we try to go deep, so deep and open it, the next layer will be closed. So we cannot open the inner layers first. We have to open the outer layer. And this is our arms and legs. When we open them, the activation, especially in the torso here, where all our emotions also are placed. And here, then it can resolve either through our arms or through our legs. And what I say generally, everything which is in this part of the body can get resolved through the legs. I want to show you the exercises, and I will invite you to do them with me. We go a little bit longer. I think I need 10 to 15 minutes more. So hopefully you can be there with me. And I change a little bit to see where you can see me best. So maybe here, because you have to see my legs. So you sit down on the chair. You sit down on the chair, comfortable, and then I would like you to take one of the leg at a time, the other one is on the ground, and push slowly in each direction with a stretched foot and a flexed foot. So flex and stretch differently. This is a bodily defense movement. Take the other leg. This is a bodily defense movement where we can sometimes really push away some of our thoughts, some people, some emotions, whatever. It helps us bodily to push away and to open the legs. So just sense your legs now and feel the difference. I feel much more filled up inside. I can feel my legs much more clear. That was number one. Number two, take one leg up and turn your foot around your ankle slowly. slowly one way. All these exercises have to be done with awareness and slowly, and the other way around. To open the ankle joint. Joints are keeping trauma. And push it down. Next, other foot this way. And push it down. Put it down. And just feel. So some people will feel that the ankle is more opened. Some people will feel maybe I feel something is around there, like something is it's packed in from the outside of the joint. Very nice feeling. That was number 2. And number 3 is to just jump on the floor. I always have in my practice a very thick carpet with wool, so it gets soft, the sound gets softer. But imagine you was 5 years old and you don't want to do what your mother wants you to do. So just push on the floor hardly, and then stop it and feel your legs. It's like it's like the energy is a little bit doing like that, and they feel really full. And for being sure that just push one down and one down to be sure that the activation goes downwards. That was number 3 with the legs. And now I would like to show you the arms. Are you ready? You see? Feel your body, feel all your legs downwards. And this can open a lot here in this part. Now we do this with the arms. And when we work and open the arms, all 3 exercises are also boundary exercises. And always do it slowly. And here we take the breath with us. In breath, and you hold like that up there, and out breath. This, I call this exercise angel wings. Why? I come from the mountains in Germany, and there was snow in the winter, that time where there was snow. So as children, we always lay down in the snow, made an imprint, and then we put some angel wings on it, so we can remember it. And just feel how it feels after you have done that. This exercise opens up the chest. When you are sad, when you are unhappy, when you are all that, your posture gets like this, and here your chest opens. So it feels already much better. And this exercise gives safety, security, and comforting. It's very nice. Number 2 is like you put like that, and then you push, like you push thick syrup in front of you. Out breath. Just like that. How does that feel? This is again a bodily defense movement. Just feel your arms and feel the whole situation. Many people feel it gives so much freedom to push out, getting things in a distance. Because when things come so close to you, what do I see? Nothing. Everything is black. and I act in my old pattern. When I come out here, I can see, oh, these are two hands. And I get the choice what I want to do with it. Here, everything runs in pattern. So, number 3 is more simple. It's space to myself. I tell my clients with these exercises, do this 3 times a day and the rest when you need it. Here's your recipe to build your medicine. And that means when you come into situations where something is overwhelming, get the space to push it away. But you cannot think it, you have to do it. Sometimes when there are people around you, you can even do it with people around you without they know it. You can always say, I'm so tired today. We have done 2 exercises in once here. The pushing out and the angel wings. So there are always possibilities. That was what I wanted to tell you about that. And at the end, for the end, I would like to do a little meditation exercise with you. I hope you can still be here. So sit down on the chair and feel your seat bones and feel down the legs to the feet and imagine. You can close the eyes, that helps often. Imagine that there come some roots out of your foot soles. These roots go through the floor, through any kind of concrete, down to the earth. These roots go into the soil and they will grow towards the midpoint of the earth. Feel these roots. And then imagine that you are a tree. You have your legs up to the waist as the trunk of the tree with very good roots deep planted into the earth. And then there's the crown coming up with your upper body. The beauty of all the branches and the fresh leaves in the light green of the springtime. Look at this tree, which is beautiful, rooted and planted. And it can be there in sunshine, in rain, in snow. There can be quietness or wind, even storm. It's so well planted and well rooted. And now I wish you to go inside yourself and finding your deep self, your me, yourself. And then I would like you to make an imaginary protection around yourself, the inner self. See what this protection is made of. What material is used? Is it soft or is it hard? Is it sticky or is it like velvet? And feel this boundary you've put out there, your inner ideal boundary, which protects yourself and your me. And then come with your awareness out and feel the space around you. And also there is a boundary which protects you, so not everything comes into you. And imagine what this boundary is made of. Come inside again and feel your inner space with your boundary that protects that deep space. And go in and out for yourself a couple of times in your own rhythm. Just go in and out as you feel it right. And now I want you to go inside again and feel this deep insight, so well protected, this me, this kind of essence, which is untouchable, which cannot be destroyed by any trauma, by any threat. It's pure, it's there. And this is the part of you which also goes from life to life. So stay there for a moment. Until you feel ready to come out again. Well, this exercise you can do for yourself, you can do with other people. It's good to share, because especially when you have this very early material, it's a good, very good protection. And I'm sorry for the sounds. I didn't know. I have closed the emails, but something happened. I'm not very good to technical things. And I have something else for you, which I would like you to try out. I do it every day. The breathing exercises from Wim Hof. I don't know. Can you? I hope you can see that. Okay. Everything is opposite of how I should do it. You don't need the small things, just the big things to write down, and it will be on the camera now. The first one is just to explain the position and how to breathe, and then you get guided through. It's 3 rounds with quick breath and then holding the breath. First round for 1 minute and the other ones for 1.5 minutes, the other 2 rounds. And this is so helpful because it opens the capacity of your lungs. And as you know, the corona is infecting the lungs, so it's a good tool. Yes, that is what I wanted to present to you for today. And I hope you cope very well with the crisis. I hope that you can use some of the material for yourselves, for your client. And for sure, there's a lot more. But I wish you good luck, that everybody of you comes good through these difficult times. Thank you.